The world of Irish broadcasting has been rocked today by the tragic death of Gerry Ryan. Aisling has been looking back on his career.
Well, you know yourself, it's kind of everybody else is having an absolutely wild time, and this is wild.
With one of the most recognised voices in the country, Gerry Ryan endeared himself to the nation with his fast wit and sympathetic ear. For the past 22 years, for 3 hours every weekday morning on 2FM, Gerry Ryan connected with his legions of loyal listeners, covering a range of topics from the trivial to the serious, all done in his inimitable, intelligent and honest style. His law degree from Trinity College Dublin giving him a firm grounding in legal matters. Where he could give advice, he gave generously and showed great empathy when talking to people who were going through tough times, allowing them space to open up and regularly giving us insights into his own world, warts and all. In 2008, Gerry separated from his wife and childhood sweetheart, Maura Brennan, after 26 years of marriage. Throughout those years together, audiences got little insights into Mrs. Ryan and their life together, bringing up their 5 children, Lottie, Rex, Bonnie, Elliot and Babette, in Clontarf on the north side of Dublin. In 1997, the then Mrs. Ryan even rang into the show under the pseudonym Nora and told 500,000 listeners that her husband dumps his underpants on the floor every night, doesn't hang up his clothes, never cleans up after the dog and forgets to put the rubbish out. Gerry described the split as the most painful decision either of them ever had to make. He also spoke out against friends who he claimed abandoned him during such a traumatic time and praised Booker Prize winner John Banville for his support. Later, Gerry was romantically linked to Melanie Vervoort, the 41-year-old former South African ambassador to Ireland. As one of the highest paid broadcasters in the country, with a salary hitting $600,000, Gerry finally agreed to a pay cut early last year as a reflection of the times. His radio career may have been consistently successful, but the same cannot be said for his forays into television. His Saturday night show Secrets was not well received by the critics, and later Gerry would describe Ryantown as the worst television experience he'd had in his entire life. He went on to present Gerry Ryan Tonight, Gerry Ryan's Hit List, Ryan Confidential and Operation Transformation. On the 24th of October 2008, Gerry filled in as the host of The Late Late Show after his colleague Pat Kenny lost his mother. He won high ratings and earned praise for handling the antics of comedian Tommy Tiernan. Also in October of that year, Gerry released his autobiography With the Real Gerry Ryan, Please Stand Up, earning a €100,000 advance by Penguin, the largest ever paid for a book published in this country. Gerry Ryan will be remembered for his funny and genuine approach to broadcasting, the everyday man who loved the good life.
Joining me now for more on that story is Aisling and Star Sunday showbiz editor Owen Murphy. Ash, starting with you, Gerry really was a larger-than-life character, wasn't he?
He was larger than life and he was great crack. And the thing about Gerry Ryan, on his radio show and even on his television shows, he understood us. He got the Irish. He was himself, of course, an Irish man. And he seemed to get the vein of our nation. And whether he was going out drinking or, you know, just chatting to somebody on the street, he seemed to understand us. And I think that is why it's such a loss that now he's gone. Yeah. Because his radio show, I mean, I was only listening to it there during the week, and I was even thinking to myself, he's so good, he gets it, he gives people space and time to talk. There was some man, his wife was stuck in Europe because of the volcanic ash, and he was in such a bad way. And Gerry just gave him that time to talk, and then he said, right, we'll get to the bottom of this. And he just had a lot of heart. Yeah,
you know? And he was very normal as well. He had a lot of time for everybody. And of course, Owen, you only met up with him recently. Tell us about that.
He was the sort of man you couldn't walk by in a bar if you knew him. I mean, I walked into the Berkeley Court there a couple of weeks ago and he was propped up at the bar, straight away up, have a pint, and he wanted to talk rugby. He'd just seen Invictus, and he was now a big passionate supporter of South African rugby, and obviously with Melanie as well. He was just, and every time he met you, he wanted to discuss a topic or a story. I mean, he lived his radio show. I mean, if there was something that made him happy or made him passionate, he wanted to convince you that he was right. Of course. And, you know, that was the way he was, and no matter where he was or what he did, he lived that. I mean, it's like his family. He lived his family through the radio show. I mean, everyone will remember Mrs. Ryan.
Yeah, Mrs. Ryan.
And even after the separation, she was still brought into it, Mrs. Ryan, or my wife. He still referred to her as his wife. And he was such a big family man as well. Christmas was huge to him. I remember last Christmas he was telling me that decorating the family tree in the Ryan household was still would give him the most joy out of the year. And he would actually go and cook the Christmas dinner as well. Like that was his thing. He was always so passionate.
Of course, his trip to Disneyland. You remember every year, and he'd bring the kids off. Like myself, I had many a great night out with him, and great stories to be told. And anytime Gerry was talking, everyone else had to shut up, but you wanted to listen, you know.
Even if you never met him, if you just listened to his radio show every day, you felt like you knew him. I mean, I saw him out. We were at this Imelda May gig, and I saw him out, and I was just like, and then I thought, my God, I don't actually know you at all. But you felt like you knew him.
He had a great habit of remembering everyone's name as well. He always referred to you by the first name whenever he met you. Even if he'd only met you once, he remembered your name. And he was such a... He was big. You'd expect him to be kind of a little bit mature and fogyish, but that guy knew more about technology, about the internet. He could tell you what the latest gadget was. He'd probably blagged it for free as well through the radio show. But I mean, he was on top of everything. He really was. And I mean, he's been doing it for so long, and he's been on the pulse of the nation. And because he was on the slot, which had the housewives, which had the purse strings. I mean, these were the people who were in charge of the families, and he literally was on the pulse of everyone's family.
Yeah, it's a very sad day. Thanks for joining us anyway.